Alright, says we're live. Welcome back everyone to yet another Moonshire Monday. So happy to be here. So happy that I still haven't missed one. And today we're going to be showing off some of the enemy AI pathfinding that I implemented. I'm very excited about it. It's going to be awesome. And I'm just realizing that I don't have my pop-out chat pulled up, so let me move that over. Otherwise I won't be able to read what you guys are saying. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. I'm seeing a lot of folks already. I'm seeing Mariah and Wolf, Upmost Gold, and Ledapalachi. The guy really makes a banger with only a Lua framework. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've been putting a lot of work into the engine itself to make it as solid as possible. Future 34, Pianogram, Fantwan, Sarami, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate that. And I'm going to jump right into it and show off some of the stuff that I worked on because it's pretty cool. So, first I'm going to start simple. We have the slime, and it follows you. So, this is not anything too new. I've shown enemies following the player in the engine for quite a while. I have like an AI pathfinding video from a while ago where it's successfully able to follow you, and it's pretty smart. It'll be able to navigate around sections. So even when it doesn't have direct line of sight, like if I walk around these rocks, it should be smart enough to navigate around it. Yeah, so it is. It's a pretty smart little guy. Can you play the game on Switch? No, it's only PC only, for Steam. So, we got the walking and navigation working, and the way this is set up is by using, I'm gonna see if I can show it. Whoa. I might need to pull up the code to show up the sight lines, because I don't remember if I have... Or do I have show... Oh, I do have a flag for it. My bad. Okay. Also, there's a weird bug where if you click on the UI, I like do an attack. Show sight. Rick Carlson, the old school geek himself. McDonald's Monday lunch is on me for you and your little slime buddy. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you to say. So kind of you to donate. Thank you. I was going to show that the way the navigation works is by using these sight points. So, another thing that I worked on is performance improvements with this, because I noticed, and I actually showed this on stream, how if you spawned too many enemies, it started to really chug the game down, and the problem was that this sight map, where it's like checking the validity of any particular cell, it was doing a lot of like line of sight checks constantly, so I toned it down so it only does line of sight checks when it's needed. And I think that we'll see it if I walk around these rocks. Yeah, that's when you can start to see the dots change. So everything stays green if the enemy has direct line of sight with the player, but as soon as it loses line of sight, that's when it starts using these purple dots. And that's actually when the like performance hit takes place, because each of those purple dots is doing a line of sight check with the mob that's being tracked, and it uses that information to help figure out what direction to go, because if it's not able to directly move towards the... Oh, it's like jumping around being weird. Yeah, there's definitely some quirks of it. But let me turn this off, and it's probably going to end up killing the little guy. Okay. The other big thing with this is that they can jump. Now that was the big challenge that I was going to have to deal with, and I worked on it all week, and it turned out really, really good. So we'll see that, you know, in the game you can jump and stuff. But if I were to jump up on this ledge, look! He jumps up! Oh, he's so smart. What a smart little guy. Okay, he's getting a little bit confused. There are definitely some quirks with it, and I noticed that it works more with the upper bounds up here, so it's always going to work fine up there. I think what the problem is that it's like... What is going on? Clearly there's still some quirks. Like, already within this demonstration, I'm finding some weirdness. But I think that, like, it's just that it's deciding which cell it wants to jump to, and I'll try and show this again if I turn on the flag for show sight. Yeah, you can see the pink dots forming again when the elevation changes between us. So if I jump up here, you can see all those purple dots form. That's when the enemy is actually trying to figure out what's a good dot for me to jump to, because it needs to artificially figure that out. And what we were seeing is that if I'm like really far ahead, it gets confused because some of those purple dots over there are there. And then I don't know what it's doing up there. It like walks up behind this tree and then it gets stuck. I almost think that it's just like too close to the tree and then it can't figure out where to go. Why are there rocks? I don't know. I was just testing out some rocks. Yeah, so the rocks are there because I added a tool, I think it was a pickaxe, where you can put in rock formations. So you can decorate the area with rocks like that. Oh, I really need to fix the attacking thing. Whenever I click, it also triggers an attack, which is just like busted. Pokemon Day? Is today Pokemon Day? That's awesome. Can you jump over gaps and land at the same height? Yes, you can. In fact, you can jump up onto higher heights, like this. And you can see the shadow on the ground as I do that, how that's like a big tell. And it's also kind of an ugly tell. But you can see the shadow changes at what elevation I'm at. Okay, so another thing, because that's not all. That's not all. I created this little mob menu where you can choose what type of mob you want to spawn and what their goal and their state are. So right now I only have one goal available. There's the follow goal where you can have it follow around. We'll have it follow around player 1, and then I'll spawn it. So this is gonna be the hero. I'll spawn the slime first. Okay. So using that menu, I was able to spawn a slime that follows the player around, and I can use that same menu to spawn one that doesn't follow anything. And if I just spawn that, so now that one's just like stuck there. He doesn't have any interest. He has no goal. He has no ambitions. Will the new demo come out? I'm not sure. It'll be a while still, because I'm still making a lot of updates. Okay, so then that's still not all. I'm gonna kill these guys. Okay, now, if we spawn goal with the goal of follow, I'll spawn this one with player 1. So this mob is gonna follow the player around. That's good. But now what I can do is have another slime follow the latest mob around. This is the one I'm excited about. Because if I spawn this mob, this slime up here is gonna be following this slime. So I can create like a little train. The game doesn't have 3D models. No, it doesn't have any 3D models. Everything's a 2D sprite. Alright, so, and they can jump. They can definitely jump, as far as I know. Here, let's create a little clean line. Up we go. Yeah, they're so smart. Oh my gosh, I love it. They're so smart. Okay, so now, I want to spawn a hero. So this is the same thing as the player. There he is. Oh, I love this. I'm so proud of this, like, artificial intelligence thing. So the way that this works is that every mob is just they're just like instances, and you can change like what's controlling them, if it's going to be AI controlled or if it's going to be human controlled or if there's no logic involved at all. I just really like that all of these mobs are just like they can be configured to whatever scenario. Is the multiplayer still coming? Yeah. That's the plan, at least. I don't have anything confirmed or like solid or anything. Jam, good call. I need to remember to use the jam a little bit more often. Thank you. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the Spyro soundtrack. And I think that I'm able to spawn like a lot of these. It's probably gonna slow things down though. I'm gonna spawn a bunch more slimes. How long of a train can we get going? This is awesome. Okay, let's go up here. Oh, man. They're so smart. I actually don't know what's gonna happen if I triple jump up to a high spot. Well, okay, let's try it. Let's try it. Because I don't think they can jump up. Oh yeah, they get really confused along this edge. If they're trying to jump up onto this ledge, I noticed that it gets really screwed up. So I'm gonna lead them up north and try that again. It feels supernatural. Thank you. I'm really happy with it. Come on up. Oh my gosh, they're so smart. They're so smart. Okay, but I don't think they're smart enough to jump this gap because, how about? Well, let's just see what happens. Yeah, they can't figure it out. Maybe you can make the sprites smaller when they are more down, bigger when they're more up. Oh, I see that idea. That's like a perspective shift. That's an interesting idea. Can you go in water? Yeah, you can go in water. In fact, you saw like there's a really small section here where I left a tiny bit of water. What the heck? Oh, they're going crazy. I think they're confused. That was weird. I want to develop a game using the pixel art system. Is this possible for me as a single person? Yeah, sure. I'm a single person doing this by myself. I use some other people's work. Like, I commission other people to help with pixel art, and I use open source and paid asset packs. So, even if you're a solo developer, you can still leverage the work that other people help you with. Like the idea of jumping in top. Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying like when you jump up, you get closer to the screen so the sprite would get bigger. I see what you mean. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Look. There's just like a really weird small section of water right here that's like invisible. Hi, how am I? I'm doing good. I'm just showing off some of this like pathfinding stuff. You know, one problem that comes up occasionally is that, like, since all of these mobs are solid, they start, like, walking into each other, and they get stuck. This is a weird bug that keeps happening. They keep walking behind this tree, and then, look, they get stuck. I think it's because their line of sight checks, even though it's going in, like, to the right, it's still hitting the tree, so they're getting stuck. They're following, like, ducklings. Wow, did you see that jump he just made? That was weird. Oh, my smart little guys. This is so weird. The player is a hero with keyboard controls. So the hero is just this character right here. It's possible to spawn any number of heroes, though. I'm gonna spawn a few more. Okay, there they are. and they're kind of clumped up awkwardly because they're following each other. Whoa! They keep walking behind this tree and then getting stuck. It's really weird. Okay, I think I spawned a few too many people. Because now they're just, like, all confused. Can you change their color? The ones that I spawn, not very easily, at least. Here, I'm gonna restart it so I can, get back on track. Is he talking? Yeah, I'm talking. Hopefully you can hear me. If he can't, or if it's quiet, let me know. So the hero is just the type of mob. You can make any mob do anything. So I'm gonna make the first one follow me, and then the next ones are gonna follow the latest. So we can do the exact same thing as we were doing before, just with like these regular mobs. Oh yeah, they get really confused around this edge, so I need to be careful with that. I love when they just like jump around. We're missing one. Oh, he got stuck behind the tree. These trees are like magnetic. They keep getting stuck at the trees. I like the background music. No, this music is from Pokemon. But I'm a big fan of it. Recommend tree animations. Yeah, yeah. If you have any ideas, I'm all for it. Another thing that I wanted to talk about today is graphics cards, because I'm back to working on my Windows computer today, and I think I'm going to buy a new graphics card. Because when I built this PC, I just reused the same graphics card that I had in my old computer, and it's a really, really low-end one. It's not very good. And I was figuring that things were going to be too expensive to upgrade, but I might still try to get a new graphics card this week. I'm going to try and order one. But the thing is, I don't really know anything about that market or what good options there are. So if anyone out there has recommendations or good ways for me to get a good graphics card, or recommendations you have in general, I'm all ears. But probably within the next few days, I'm going to try and order one, something that's better than what I got now. I think that will help all of my problems, because I was talking about how there's been issues where while I'm streaming and I'm recording at the same time, it would like start to stutter the stream, and that's not acceptable. And I really do think that's because of the graphics card. My graphics card is so low end. It's like what is it? 3050 GeForce, something like it only has 6 gigabytes of VRAM, and it's very low end. It doesn't even connect to the power source on my PC. It just connects to the motherboard. What's my current GPU? Let me actually pull it up. I can't pull it up without. I wonder if I can pull it up without pulling up my notes. I'm pretty sure it's the GeForce 3050 is what it was. That's what I bought. I'm sorry, I can't pull it up right now. Pathfinding in 3D. When I say pathfinding in 3D, I'm saying that my game has a third dimension because you can jump around in it. And so even though right now we're walking around just on the ground, it is perfectly doable to jump up here. And that's what I mean by pathfinding in 3D. Oh my gosh, they're getting really freaked out. Yeah, the trees are causing problems for sure. But when I say 3D, it's that they can navigate between these higher ground areas and these lower ground areas. Minimum RTX 5050, mid-range RTX 5060 Ti. Yeah, I understand a lot of them are expansive, yeah. But I'm with you. Those specs that you listed sound like something I'd be going for. No Name Village, I'll check it out. How do you achieve those tree animations on the pink blossom trees? Okay, I'll show that. That's actually a good question, since a few people were chatting about that. So the way that the tree animation works is that I split it up into multiple different layers. So I'll go ahead and show that. I have a good example of that too. I guess it's not a very good example, but it demonstrates what I'm trying to show. So this is what the tree looks like in terms of its like sprite data. It's a sprite sheet, and you can see it's split up by different layers. So we have the trunk layer, and then we have all of the different like layers of the petals or the grasses. There's other versions of this too where it's green, but that's the first step, is splitting up the different layers. Because in the original version of Moonshire, like the version that's on Steam, that version of those trees is actually very different. And I'm going to pull up that version to show you what I did with those. So the old version of the game had trees that looked like this, where it was one sprite sheet. Kindly release the game ASAP. I'm working on it. I'm trying. But it was just a sprite sheet before, where you had this frame leading into this frame. So it's hard to tell, but these are different sprites, where like this gets moved over this way, and that's what leads into this one. So it's just like slightly changing the sprites. But I found that to be really limiting. So here, I split up each layer of the image, and what happens in game is if you look really, really closely, you can see each layer independently rotating slightly. And they're like rotating slightly in the same way that the grasses on the ground are rotating slightly. It's just meant to be a subtle wind movement, and actually it's a bit too slow if you ask me. I think I should speed it up because it makes it seem like we're in like low gravity or something. Same with the grass. I can show how that works. It's been a long time since I touched this, but I should be able to show it because we got. Do we have a separate tree? No, we have a tree. Yeah, class tree. Where does it decide this? Okay, so we have the flex here. This tells us how much it's capable of rotating on each layer. So if I bumped all of these numbers up to like much higher values, I think that when I restart the game, the trees are going to be much wilder. So let's like see what happens at least when I do this. Okay, yeah, they are. They're much wilder. So all I did, and the movement is RNG. Yeah, there's a bit of RNG in terms of how much it's moving. Well, I think the total distance moved is set in stone because it needs to line up with the pixels pretty precisely. Otherwise, it looks like this, where it looks super disconnected. But there is randomness in the speed, like that it gets to its destination, so that it like has the offset. And otherwise, like you're kind of suggesting, is that it would like line up too precisely and it would look weird. My game is a true pixel game, as goes with my aesthetic, so the second one was pretty helpful. Awesome, yeah. I'm with you. Is that if you're doing a true pixel art aesthetic where you don't have rotated sprites, you don't have scaled sprites, you don't have any of the tricks that I use in my game to make it easier, you're right, you would have to stick with sprite sheet animations. Check out Game Endeavor's channel. His game looks like it's completely true pixel art, and he has a lot of good tricks in it that can help with that. Another one is transparency. Like you can see that the fog that's moving across the ground is semi-transparent. That's not true pixel art. Pixels can't be transparent to other pixels below it. So the way that this fog here works, how you can see stuff through it, that wouldn't work in a true pixel art format. And same with the snow, how you can see some snow is bigger than other snow to make it look like it has depth. That's not true pixel art either. There's a lot of things that you'd have to forfeit if you wanted to go with a true pixel art style where it really is true pixel art. Otherwise, I think that these tricks are worth it, is what I'm saying. I think that being able to have scaling snow or rotating sprites or transparency, I think it goes a long way. Is the bird game still a work in progress? No, it's not. I'm not working on that. I wouldn't mind going back to it at some point, but it would need a complete rework. Because the reason why I stopped is because I felt like the controls were a bit too clunky, and I was building out levels without really being solid in terms of like the gameplay. I really like mixing pixel art with modern rotations. It looks really nice. If you do it well, then I think it does, yes. But there are plenty of examples of people doing this sort of stuff, and it doesn't look good. So as long as you do it tastefully, then that's what matters. Because I've totally seen like scaled sprites set next to each other, and it just looks bad. Some retro consoles could do transparency, like the GBA. The GBA, I don't actually think it could. Let me think if GBA could do transparency. Because I'm thinking of Minish Cap. Minish Cap is the most high fidelity pixel art game I can think of, and I don't think it has transparency. I really don't think it does. Because there's only one pixel. It's a 320 pixel by 180 pixel screen. So it's not able to render 2 pixels in the same pixel area. They just use dither exactly. A trick that they would do back in the day is to have like shadows. They would just have it flash. That's why you would see like old NES games. A lot of the sprites would like flash in and out to give it a transparent look. And that in itself. Are you and Goodie's friends? Yeah. I've chatted with him a bunch of times. I'm really excited for his game. I hope it's able to be released soon. In the same way that mine's going to be released soon. I know it's really hard to get a game to the finish line. What about just making it so the enemy's solid hitbox only works with the player and not between enemies so they don't get stuck? I could do that. In fact, I think I could do that right now. Because, collision. I have these collision... maybe not this one. There's a list of collision Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm trying to remember where I have the data for collision classes. Where would this be? I'm so frustrated that I can't remember what it's called. Tag. I call them tags. Okay, tag. There it is. Okay. Oh no, this is a generic tag. Oh my gosh, I'm so dumb. Give me a second. I'm being really dumb. Isn't that classic where you just like... I'm gonna go over to the mob create and see how it creates its collider. Give me 1 second while I figure this out. Where does it pass it in? Does it happen in mob? Oh, I'm so frustrated. I think that there's a mob, I'm being really... Add temporary ignore. That's odd. Because there's this tag system where you define what collision types ignore others, and I have it put in some file, but I can't remember which file it is. It's like ignored. Is it in hitbox? No, I don't think it's in hitbox. Oh, it's in ignore. It's actually a file that I made called ignore.lua. Oh my gosh, that took me way too long to find. I was just looking for this one file for so long because before I did the rewrite, this file was called collision classes, and so I was just like looking through this whole code base looking for collision classes, but it was actually called ignore, and it's using the collision tags in order to figure it out. Okay, I figured it out. So we can make it so mobs ignore other mobs. And I think that will be enough to make it so, yeah, they just walk through each other. So now I can have a whole bunch of these guys, and they clump up without like causing problems. But that's kind of the issue, is that when they can go through each other, they're just gonna clump up like this in one big group, and that's not really what we want. Is Love2D basically do pip install? No, I don't know what that means. No, it's just an application that you can download from online. Whoa! They keep doing that sometimes, where like they jump really far away. You can implement a void system or make them repel to one another. That's what I think I'm gonna do, is that rather than have it impact their ignore physics, I think I am still gonna have them like touch each other and physically interact with each other, but I'm gonna make their pathfinding more intelligent, is really what the goal. Why did you do that? Did you see that he just like jumped all the way over there for no reason? Which engine am I using? I'm using Love2D. Please no spamming though. I'm creating a pixel competitive game where there might be rotating maps or levels. Would you create a level editor or hardcode the maps after base game is created? So the way that I'm doing level editing right now actually is the level editing happens within the engine. And it happens in the engine as opposed to happening in an external level editor. Because that's something that I did originally, is the game used to be designed using a level editor like this, where all of the tiles were drawn into a level editor, but it didn't connect nicely with the engine. So instead, now the way it's set up, and I actually don't know what's going to even happen when I do this with mobs. If I do this, oh, they just get destroyed. Okay. So like, you see how I can have this platform right here in the middle of the level. I can go into the level editor mode, which is kind of buggy, but I can get rid of these and go back, and now it's gone. So that's how level editing works, is that you're going to be able to change the terrain and the layouts and stuff all from within the engine. You're not going to have to download any external tools or anything. It should just work naturally. It's a little buggy with its tile generation, but that's the whole idea, is that, oh, that's really buggy. But still, that is how it works. That's how all my levels are designed currently. Oh, and another thing I should show while I'm doing this is the border. Because I started showing this in an earlier episode, or earlier stream, but I have this border option where you can draw in the borders of the level, and it looks like this. If I put in all of this, the idea is that it's going to prevent you from walking off screen. And it looks like that. And it's like a tree canopy that actually acts as a solid wall that you can't walk through. So I'm going to be able to go into the edit view and just draw in a bunch of this stuff. And that's going to be how the edges are decided. Or it's going to be an option for how the level edges are decided. Like, originally I was planning to have the level edges set up using the elevation itself rather than like hard edges, but I think that's going to work better having a hard edge like this. I'll explain what I mean in just a second. Okay. So now there's like this big wall that surrounds the whole play area. It's going to prevent anyone from going off screen. To make that as part of the framework engine, there's very little that's part of the framework. So people asking me like, what engine did I use? I get the impression that's folks trying to figure out like, the engine is custom made essentially, but Love2D, the framework that it's built on, is what renders the graphics. It's what accepts input. It has the physics engine built in. It has a lot of helper features that get the game running. But in terms of the engine, all of the features that you see, like the tile generation, the characters, the movement, the animations, all of that stuff is custom coded for my code base. If I go into my code, I even have a section, which I hope you can see it. It's kind of small. In my code, I have this folder called Engine. And even though like I'm using the engine Love2D, I still have all of this custom engine stuff, like the collision logic, how things are drawn, all the custom events that happen. The game itself is custom, like managed by this Lua code. Hitboxes, the ignore rules that we were just talking about, this is all custom, the ignore concept with the physics engine. Input handling with custom inputs, physics, the player system, connection with Steam, the update loop, the camera, all of this stuff is not built into Love2D. Love2D is super lightweight, and it gives you the like baseline tools to build things, but you need to implement the engine stuff yourself. So if you download Love2D, it's not going to look anything like this. Not even a little bit. It's just going to be a black screen. And creating an engine, like a game world like this, is exceptionally difficult. It takes a long time. But it is doable. And there are open source options. Like, check out Legend of Lua on GitHub. That's a really old version of this game that's open source that kind of shows off some of the fundamentals using Love2D. Most game devs, they use engines. They assume that games are made with engines. And I mean, most of them, I don't know about most of them, but a lot of them are. Just because when it comes to reinventing the wheel, like a game engine did already figure out how to do all these things. Like, there would be no need for me to implement a collision system or hitboxes or custom players or Steam connection, because the engine handles a lot of that stuff automatically. It's someone else already implemented these things, incorporated it into the engine, and now other people are able to use it. Now, whoops. I just dropped my mouse, 1 second. Now, the problem with using someone else's engine, though, is that the game isn't optimized for whatever game you're creating. If you use Unreal Engine, for example, I think Unreal Engine is one of the most notorious engines out there before, just because it has performance quirks, we'll say. When you use Unreal Engine, you are signing up for, you're just hoping that Unreal Engine stays optimized because you're at their mercy. Meanwhile, when you make your own engine, you are at your own mercy. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing if you don't know how to do anything, which is why most people don't do that, because it's very, very hard to. Including me, by the way. I'm using Love2D, the framework. It does a lot of things that I do not know how to do. And maybe someday I would like to dig into that level of development. But at the moment, I'm just relying, it's again, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Love2D already has all this stuff working in terms of rendering graphics and input and interacting with the operating system and file systems and saving it, all this stuff. These are things that I would need to do myself, and Love2D is already there and it works and does all these things, so you might as well use that software to streamline development. And the question is, how much of an engine do you want? Love2D is pretty small in terms of features that it offers, so that gives me a lot of room to implement all of my own custom built streamlined features. But something like Unreal Engine is super thick and filled with features. Super heavy is a better word than thick. It's filled with features, and a lot of those features might not be relevant to you. And when your game is built with this engine that's so heavy, but the game yourself, the game that you're creating is not heavy, well, you're gonna be bogged down by all of the extra stuff that Unreal Engine is running and offering, and all the modules and crazy physics rendering. It's like trying to nail a tiny nail with a giant sledgehammer. It's not optimal tooling for whatever game you're going for. And sometimes it is, because you hear about companies like Microsoft or whoever is doing the Halo games. They're switching away from whatever engine they were using, and they're going full Unreal Engine now. That's going to be their engine. And their logic is, why reinvent the wheel? Unreal Engine already exists, and it works really, really well. So we're going to leverage that tech and create it that way. There is at least one mobile app that allows you to develop Love2D games directly on your phone. That's really cool. It's cool to hear that there's a lot of people out there, I'm realizing this now, that actually do need to use their phone for development, just because they are either on the go a lot, or they just don't have access to devices that are able to do things like on a PC, for example. And I'm really glad that the amount of options out there for mobile users is growing. It's really nice to see, because I like having game development as approachable and accessible to as many people as possible. And mobile is definitely the most approachable platform. A lot of people have phones, even around the world. Cell phones are ubiquitous, so that's one of the most important platforms to consider. And it's something I'm considering with my game myself, is that right now it's only targeting PC and Steam. Bub, hi, welcome in. Show me the current state of the game whenever it's possible. Yeah, even though it's only targeting PC and Steam right now, I do think I want to try and get mobile support in there, just because there's so many people that are on mobile. There's a lot of people that don't have access to computers, but they do have access to mobile devices, so that'd be a nice thing. Why did I choose Love2D? Just because I tried out all different game engines. They're all free, so I just downloaded all of them and tried them out, and this is the one I like the most. That's all. Why aren't I using Winfield for collisions to Moonshire? Because I rewrote my own physics module, physics wrapper is what you would call it, that replaces it. So I wrote my own physics.lua, and this does the same things that Winfield does. So Winfield, for those who don't know, is an open source. I'll go ahead and pull it up. It's a GitHub page for a really, really helpful Love2D library, Love2D Winfield, that makes using the physics module easier. And that's my big thing, is that I think the physics module in Love2D is awesome, and it's very powerful, and it can do some awesome things, but I think it's a little bit annoying to work with. because you have to worry about bodies and fixtures and shapes, and you have to create your own tooling to manage all of those and your own data structures to organize all of those. And if you want to work with it on your own, it's just complicated. It's just complicated. I think it's annoying to work with on its own. So Winfield, the purpose is just to make it easier. Rather than needing to have a body, a fixture, and a shape, you just create a collider. He created this idea called collider, which combines all of those concepts into one simple object, which I'll call like a physics object is sometimes what I call it. But a collider combines all of those things into one entity. So like in my game, if I were to pull up show colliders, all of these are the colliders in the game. And each of these colliders, like they're all octagons. They all, or rectangles, they all have a body, a fixture, and a shape because they're using the Love2D physics engine to do that. But on a code level, we don't worry about that. We just worry about the concept of collider. And I adopted that same idea for this code. I think it's actually collider like this. Yeah, like this. So, that idea of combining them into one instance, I think, is genius, and it really is how the physics entities should be interacted with, just because I like the simplicity. I think it makes a lot more sense to me. So, rather than looking at these logs up here, for example, and saying, okay, we need to worry about the log's body, and we need to worry about the log's fixture, we need to worry about the log's shape, and then we need to worry about some kind of like parent class that organizes all of those, and we need to worry about the functions that interact with those individual components individually. None of that is what we're worrying about. We just have logs have a collider, and that collider has all of the functionality that a body offers, that a physics fixture offers, and that a physics shape offers. It combines them all into one place. And I'm sure there's some trade-offs with doing that, but the biggest benefit is that it's simpler to understand, and I think that's the biggest thing, especially with people who are kind of starting out, or like working with a framework in general is challenging, so I would like to make it less challenging. So that's the whole purpose of Winfield. Now the big problem with Winfield is that it's been archived like 8 years ago. This is very, very old code. It is outdated, and it is on track to be deprecated. Like it won't work anymore once Love 12 comes out. Now they've been saying that for a while. They've been saying like this is going to be deprecated. It's not going to work for a long time. But it still works. Like if you were to download this and use it for your project, if you were to follow my tutorial on my channel about Winfield, which I think is still a good tutorial, it would still work with the latest version of Love today, even 8 years later. But as soon as Love 12 comes out, and once we start using Love 12, supposedly this is not going to work at all anymore. I haven't tested it, but they've been telling me that it's not going to. So I decided to get ahead of that, and that's why I made this physics.lua file. So that all being said, I want to open source this physics.lua file. I want to open source it. So sometime in the somewhat near future, I'd like to convert this into an open source module, because this is actually a little bit more complex than it needs to be. This physics module also accounts for the three-dimensional aspect of it, how you can jump on top of things. Like look at these colliders. The player walks into the rock, and the player gets stuck. It does not. You can't walk through the rock. But if I'm jumping, suddenly you can go through the rock if you jump over it. And that's a lot of custom code physics trickery that's happening in this physics.lua class. And I want to make this open source option to have like an extensible amount of features. Because if your game does not need 3D, you should not have 3D logic in place that's doing all those calculations, because it is actually kind of expensive to have each of these colliders running an extra Z-axis check for some of this stuff. Some good souls should fork it and update the project. I think people have, but I don't think they're quite as... I think they have. Long story short is I think they have, but I haven't been fully sold on any of those implementations, let's just say. I played the demo. I loved it. Thank you. Moonshire is already in Love to D's Hall of Fame. That's so nice of you to say. Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. You essentially get a copy of the source code and can write your own version. Yeah, that's exactly what a fork means, is that the suggestion was that in order to get around this idea that it's been archived, what you're able to do is you're able to fork it, which means that you basically get a copy of it in its current state, and then you can work off of this code and build onto it. So even though this user is not making any more changes to this code, anyone can come along and fork it. I'm being very careful with my enunciation. And they can start making updates to it themselves. And I don't know, is there a way that you can see all of the forks? I actually don't know of you existing forks. Also, this is definitely a jam. This has been stuck in my head all day, or all week, really, past few weeks. Past 2 years. There hasn't been one for quite a while. All time. So this is all of the forks that exist, but it doesn't look like any of these have taken off. So this is how modders mod. Modding, like modding for a game, creating your own mods, it can mean lots of different things. When it comes to creating mods for a game, a lot of it depends on how much mod support there is for the game itself. So like Skyrim, they have their own like modding pipeline where you can insert your own assets, your own logic, and then that gets connected with the main game, and then it's able to do that. That's actually different from what we're looking at here. This is actually more open source development on the engine itself. So Love2D is the game engine, and this Winfield code is a library that just complements the engine. It just helps make the engine more fun to work with. None of the jams you've been typing have been sent. What? They haven't been sent? Oh no! That's so weird. Okay, that one's sent. I wonder what happened. I wonder what the deal is. GitHub keeps your source code in the cloud. It's easier to share. Yeah, GitHub is awesome because everything's cloud sourced. Is backed up online. There's gonna be more variety to the combat outside of hit and dodge. Yeah, I would like there to be. So one feature that I'm going for is that you can switch between weapons on the fly. So the goal is that, and I'm also gonna turn off the hitboxes because they're really annoying. The idea is that like you could swap between weapons in the middle of while you're fighting something. So like if I'm stabbing, I can swap over to the axe, or I'm slashing and then switch over to stabby. I think that in itself is going to be add some complexity. And whoa, something's really bugged with this map. What the heck is going on? Yeah, something's really bugged. Whoa! I think that some stuff didn't get deleted. Yeah, there's some really weird. Look at this. I'm like, oh, that's so weird. Using spear is so satisfying. Thanks. I have to fix some things. So there's a bit of an offset issue with the stab like animation. For some reason, it's like lower. And then also when I'm stabbing straight down, that like look at how the spear connects with the hand. That doesn't look very good. I need to come up with a better animation for like when it's straight down, because that just looks bad. So there's still some work to be done. Does the water bucket still shoot fire? Probably. Let's see. Well, I think it shot fire because I was using the torch. I shot fire from the torch, and then I switched over to the water bucket. And then, yeah, it does shoot fire still. Also, even though I'm drawing in this water here, the plants are still there, which is weird. But yeah, the water bucket does shoot fire, and it's very cool. Okay, I think I need to close out because I caused too many like weird issues. Okay. Let's get back to normal. That looks better. The water bucket of fire, yep, exactly. I think we're starting to see some frame drops. I'm hoping it's not because of the stream. Oh, what I was saying earlier. Does anyone have suggestions for graphics cards? Someone was saying 5070 and at least MTX 5070 Ti. I'll definitely be considering that. But where should I be looking? Like what platforms are best to be buying from? Because like I could do like Amazon or Best Buy, or maybe do people buy like used graphics cards? Is that a thing that people do? I don't really know what's typical. Ideally, I just want a decent one that can handle streaming and recording and running a game all at the same time, because that's where my thing is kind of hitting its limit. Is I'm currently streaming to YouTube, recording the stream to the computer, while also running this game, while also running like VS Code and my art software and Discord and OBS and all the other things. There's so much stuff going on. So yeah, I think it's inevitable that I'll need to get something better. They do, but it's risky because you never know what the previous owner used it for. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know what the level of quality is. So if I'm able to afford just a new one, that'd be nice. But at the same time, creator of a tool called Feather, open source, LoveTD inspector for log messages with plugin support. What external tools do you use for your dev environment? Or you create all your tools instead? That's an awesome thing. I'm going to actually look up your thing. But to answer your question, what logs and tools do I use? So all the tooling I use is mostly built in, because when the game runs, it does pop up the Love2D console, and you can see all of the different prints I have in place. And whenever I'm debugging something or I'm working on something, and I'm trying to figure something out, I always add prints to various parts of the code, and then they'll show up here. And here, like, this is a good example of something that would be useful. It gives me a warning. It says, warning, could not load tile sheet for fluid.lava as sprites to tiles.fluid.lava. And that actually makes sense, because I don't think I actually implemented that. So this is just a really helpful thing that calls out that I'm missing some assets, which is true, I am. But in terms of like taking it a step farther, I have some built-in tooling. Like I have all my debug tools. Uh-oh. The game crashed. Why did the game crash? I don't know why the game crashed for some reason. That was weird. One second. Yeah, I need to pull that out of this stuff. It actually crashed. That was weird. I think print statements will create their own issues. Definitely true. I have seen that. The most common print statement related issue I run into is that I have something printing every single frame. And if you have something printing every single frame, that causes the game to chug. Am I writing game in Love2D? Yes, the engine is Love2D, all the code is Lua. Best way to learn coding? Really? Honestly, just making games. Even if you don't know how to make games, just start making one, because you can just start making it without knowing how to code and pick up on the coding quirks as you go. Just make sure you start very easy. How to set up the console? It was I was using Terminal and VS Code. So if you're on Windows, you can create. So sorry, let me take a step back. In Love2D, you have your main.lua. Everyone knows that. But next to your main.lua, you can have something called the conf.lua config. So conf.lua is what this file is, and you can define your love.conf. And this is a big feature that Love2D has, Love2D conf. And you can define a whole bunch of different features and enable different flags and set a bunch of different things in this file. So one of them is t.console. If you have t.console set to true, then when you run the game, it actually pops up this love console. So anything that gets printed directly to the love console. But within conf.lua, there's a lot of different things that you can set. And if you go to this config files site, you'll be able to see all the different options you have. There's tons of them. App identity version. This is when we're using console. External storage is something that I had to have enabled for Necrozone for the mobile game. I had to have it turned on. Audio mic, so you can have all these turned off. Actually, these are all the default properties too. So like, if you don't use the mic, it defaults to false. So you shouldn't turn it on unless you need it. The window title, I think I have that set. in mine, yeah. Well, yeah, window.title. So I have window.title and t.title. Actually, I don't really know what the difference is. What is the difference? .title. It looks like there isn't even a... Is this not even used? I don't think that's used because the... Like, it still says Moonshire because of the window. So I think that was actually not used. I don't see it anywhere in the documentation. Like telling OpenGL how to make the window rendering API. Yeah, there's so many things you can set. And you kind of need to come in here whenever you utilize some of the specific features. I'm actually going to pull up the config for Necrozone because I bet that one looks different than my Moonshire one. I'm going to pull up Necrozone. It doesn't look that much different, but it is different. So first, I actually set the window size here in the config. So this is like the default window size. I don't do that here. I just let it set to the default love2d one. But since this is a mobile game, I want to set it to a default mobile dimension. And then I actually have some of the modules turned off. I don't know if I need these. Is physics turned on by default? And same with joystick? If it is, then that makes sense to turn it off. Yeah, actually it is. Joystick is on by default, and physics is on by default. So the idea behind this is that if you're not using the joystick functionality and you're not using the physics functionality, if you just turn them off completely, supposedly it'll help with performance because they're like these don't need to be processed in any capacity. They're set to like false in the config. But I have to imagine that if you're not using physics, why would just having it turned on be enough? Well, maybe it helps with load times, because if it doesn't have to load the module, then it would be faster. I think that's probably what it has to do. Plan to release a demo of my game on the 28th, but was delayed to the 5th of March because of school stuff. No worries. I'm glad to hear that you're able to get something out, though. Because that's a really big step. Getting a demo out the door is super, super challenging. It's not easy at all. So that's cool. But anyway, comp.lua, we were talking about the config and the console. Yeah, Windows only. So when I work on Mac, I do use the terminal where I go to, what is it? You go to File, New, Terminal, or is it Terminal, New Terminal? I'm going to go ahead and delete these. And then you can do, if love is on your path, you can say love dot. Oh, what the heck? That just opened up. That's not what I wanted to do. Can I run love? No. Maybe I don't have it set up properly on the path. Also, maybe I have to be on main.lua instead. Or not main. You can call love.window set mode to set size. Yes, and that's what I actually do. I don't use the config for setting the size of the window for Moonshire. Instead, I have this resize set, which triggers whenever the window manually gets resized. And then also during load, I have a load function. The size should be... I have a cap window size. I think that there's a dimensions. So we get dimensions here. Oh, this is setting loading progress. We actually need the size, cap window size. Yeah, here, love.window set mode. This is the function that Rick was talking about. This is funny, or two, because on my streaming setup, I have this monitor is the one I'm streaming from, which is actually monitor 2. So I think I manually changed this to be or 2, but we really shouldn't. I think the default one should be 1. So when I run this, it still popped up on 2, probably because it's in the settings. I am going to change this to 1 though. Game.settings display. Let's go to settings. Do I have a display option? Oh, here it is, 2. Yeah, so it's set to 2 by default, but when the game actually launches, or when I put the demo out, this is going to be changed to 1. I have it set to 2 because if it's 1, like when I start the game right now, the game starts over there, like not on the right screen. I would have to move it over each time, and that's annoying. So that's why I set up like that. Utmost, thank you for stepping in. One day I opened an Explorer window and I typed code dot on the path and it opened a strange file. I just closed it and opened VS Code with the command instead. Yeah, I like that command I ran in the terminal is what I would run on Mac. So maybe it's a different command that's on Windows, or maybe I'm just running it wrong in general. I don't actually know. But Windows has the nice options. Also, I like the Love 2D support. Where is it? Yeah, Love 2D support, because this extension has the option to specify where the path is. And actually, that's the answer. Is I was typing love dot. I should be typing this like that, or maybe I can type this. No. Love.ex. Why is that not found? That should be found. Oh, I think you actually have to type like. Is this a power shelter? Yeah, it's a power shelter. We're gonna see if to do that. Ah, it didn't work. I can never remember how to do these dumb PowerShell commands, but it's not important. Essentially, when you run the space in the path, whoops. Maybe it's not set up as a global variable because slash doesn't work. I'll try it one more time, but I'm making myself look foolish because I can't remember what the what the PowerShell wording is. Okay, so I tried. Oh, silly, silly, silly. What do I do about that? I don't actually know what you can do. That's weird. Yeah, Windows is quirky like that. I never, ever put spaces in any folder, file name, ever, ever, ever. I hate spaces. Development in Windows is always a nightmare. Like, legitimately, you're right. In a lot of cases, it is. It is very quirky, isn't it? I wonder if there is a way to include spaces if you use, like, quotation marks. But I don't really feel like investigating that any further. But anyway, this is where love.exe exists on my computer, and so it uses this path whenever it... quirky, that's the right word. Yeah, totally. I use that word a lot when describing Windows. Do you need to use Git for having love to do without errors? You don't need to use Git for anything. So the purpose of Git is it allows you to check in, is the term. It allows you to check in your code like every day, for example. So let's say that you work on your game every single day. Git essentially just takes a stamp mark, a little timestamp of each day, so that if you do a day of work and you realize, oh, actually, I made all of these changes to the code and it actually caused a bunch of problems. Now the performance is bad. Now there's a bunch of bugs. Actually, all of those code changes that I made, that was a mistake. We should go back. We should go back to the way things were. But if you don't have Git set up, you can't really go back unless you were taking backups. So like you could do the same thing by like copying, pasting a backup every day and then having it backed up online, and then you could go back to those backups. But Git is much more streamlined than that because it keeps track of all of your commits with great detail. So here is the GitHub repo for Moonshire. This is private, by the way. You guys can't see any of this stuff. But we can see all of my commits. How many commits did that say? 3,268 commits. And what is nice about this is my example said every day, but the truth is I commit, it looks like 7 or 8 times per day. This day was like 12. So I do a lot of commits. I move fast some days. And since it's the case, it is really common while you're developing, no matter what method you're using in development, it is really common that you'll make a bunch of changes. You'll spend an hour or so on a task, and it's like, this actually isn't panning out the way I was hoping it to. Actually, I kind of made a bunch of, I had to change so many files, and things are really ugly now, things don't work. You can very easily go back to any one of these commits. Like, even if all of these commits up here were bad, I could just go down to this one, copy the SHA, and then jump right back to this commit. And on top of that, when you have everything committed through Git, you can see, it says all the file specific changes. You can go and see a before and after to see what changed between this commit, or within this commit at least. And having this information on hand whenever you want is super, super valuable. Then on top of all of that, this stuff is being backed up online to github.com. It's being online backed up to a server. So if your computer blows up, which that happens occasionally, if your computer breaks down, you can just go up onto GitHub, clone your repo back to your new computer, and it's basically as if you never lost the first one in the first place. Unlike Unity, Love2D works perfectly with Love. Yeah, it's true. So your entire project is on GitHub for anyone using GitHub exploits to steal. No, that's not what I said. It's on GitHub, but it's a private repo. So it's a private repo. You actually can't see this code. GitHub is a very awesome website because it offers public repos, which is available for the open source community for people to share their work and for other people to see your progress, but it's also available for private development. You can have a private repo, and only the people that you approve of have access to this code and can see this stuff. Now, I'm showing this on stream for you guys to see visually with your eyeballs. Like, it's okay that you guys can see how this stuff is set up, but you can't actually go to the Moonshire repo on your computer to see that. Also has code spaces. I love code spaces. Or workspace. I'm thinking of workspaces. Workspaces is where you can have multiple repos in the same section within VS Code, and it allows the code to kind of collaborate a little bit easier. So that's my endorsement of GitHub. It is definitely worth using. So another clarification is GitHub is just a website that uses Git. Git is actually a different piece of software altogether that you'll need to install separately. But by the way, if you didn't know, I have a tutorial on my YouTube channel for how to use Git, how to use GitHub, how to get set up with all this stuff. But Git is the software, this is the version control software, and GitHub is the website that makes it very easy to work with. So it's two different products. Git is the tech that handles the tracking and flagging of stuff, and then this handles the backing everything up online, the collaboration aspect. Why does my cursor have a mini cursor? Does my cursor have a mini cursor? Oh, wow. Wow, what the heck, it does. That's so weird. Yeah, there's two cursors. You can kind of see it. That's so weird. I'm guessing it's because I use the mouse size option in Windows. So maybe it's duplicating it in a weird way. Because I have the size set to 3. Whoa, yeah, you can see it even better now. You can see the smaller cursor and the bigger cursor. But when I'm looking at my monitor, I only see the big one. I don't see the small one at all. So that's kind of weird. That's pretty weird. Wait, that's not intentional? No, that's not intentional at all. Yeah, when I'm looking at my screen, when I'm just looking at the monitor, I only see the one cursor. I don't see two cursors. That's very weird. Maybe it's because of one of these? Well, now that's even weirder because you can see the green cursor, but now it's back to the white one. Very strange. I'm gonna change this back to 3. That's the size I like. And try to stream every window unless it's the cursor program. Not sure what you mean. What I want to work on right now, actually, is switching to a different map and trying to build a better testing map. Because that map that I was using is a little bit cramped, a little bit contained, so I'm going to try a different one. So over in load, we're going to load a different map than the default one. We're going to load desert. Oh yeah, we got some Undertale fans. Same here. So here is the level we'll be working from. And I should be able to, I'll show this. So I have my console log up. If I click Control S, it actually saves the level to a JSON file. And that's what I'm going to be doing in order to make these edits, is I can go to that JSON file. Go ahead and pull it up. And we can see the desert.json file here. So whenever I save, it's going to save to that file. The biome's coming to Moonshire? Oh yeah, there definitely will. There definitely will. I'm just getting to that point. I'm going to start, actually, with the border. If I go over to this... Uh-oh. Why did the game crash? The game crashed again. Oh, that's so weird. Did I make some changes? Did I screw something up? Why would that cause the game to crash? It's weird that I've gotten 2 crashes, and not regular crashes. Those are like stalling crashes. Those are the bad ones. Mem leaks. I mean, that's kind of what it feels like. It worked flawlessly that time. What was different? I don't know. That was weird. Anyway, I'm gonna start by putting in a border. After that, try Green Room from Deltarune Chapter 3. I think that's actually in my playlist already. I like Chapter 3. I like Chapter 4. I thought that they were both good. I don't know about you guys, but when Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4 came out, I don't feel like it got nearly as much hype as the other chapters did. My suspicion is that it's because of the price, is that it was more expensive than the other chapters. I think Tenna is the best Darkener. I like Tenna. Yeah, it's weird because I thought chapters 3 and 4 were just as good as the other chapters, but I didn't hear people talking about as that. Is this a gamified level editor? Yes, that is that's a really good way of putting it. Is that levels can be designed from within the game engine itself, and that's kind of the whole goal I'm going for. So first I'm actually going to get rid of these 2. And I'll make like a little ledge up here. Like that, okay. I like this. This is nice. Ooh, I'm getting really hungry. I'm excited to go get my McDonald's. I'm gonna put some more down here. I think this is actually gonna be a little ugly now that I think about it. Because I remember these types of tiles having bugs. Oh no, it looks fine. Yeah, this looks good. Maybe I can connect these 2. Oh. Yeah. Oh, whoops! I spawned a little man. That was an accident. I didn't mean to create this guy. I'll just kill him. There we go. Problem solved. I think it would look better. Oh, you know, let's put some like water in this little alcove. No, I'm gonna fill it in. I'm gonna fill it in. Like that. It doesn't really matter. No, I liked it better when it was gone. We're gonna get rid of that. It would be good if you add a little transparent tile where you're placing one so you can see where you're placing. You can kind of see it, can't you? Oh, you're talking about like in this view? Well, I mean, in this view, you can see which tile is being highlighted, but you're right that it's not. Yeah, there's not much of a preview. You have to switch back to the main view. Also, this is like creating some weird. I'm noticing some weirdness. Anyway, let's go over here, and I'll add. I think I'm gonna get rid of some of this. Let's add some water. There's a weird bug right here. Look, you can see like a second ring. I don't know what's up with that. I'm gonna have to investigate that. Did I make that tool? Yeah, I made all of this. You already considered using a parallax on the level border. I did. The reason why I didn't go with a parallax is because I actually want the border to be functional. And one thing with parallax on a foreground is that its position is going to be ambiguous. I did not want it to be ambiguous. I wanted the position of the foreground to be firm. And I do think I want to put in some parallax effects. An example is the fog. It's hard to see, but the fog does have some parallax aspects to it, especially if you look at the very bottom. You can kind of see that when I move to the right, it slows down or it speeds up when I walk this way. And that's subtle, though. That's not even a very good example, though. Stay with the flu. I gotta let's play while I whip some tea. That sounds awesome. I'm actually not a big fan of tea. I need to get into it, though. I'm really picky with hot drinks in general. I really hope you forget to fix the water bucket. To be honest, that is pretty funny. It happens only when you equip a torch. You shoot the torch, and then you pick up the water bucket, and then you start drawing in water. That's when you spawn the water. It does look really funny, like the way that it's like actually angling the bucket. Really funny. Did I make that tiling tool or map creator? Yes, I made this tiling tool. All of the built-in level editing stuff is made by me. Coffee item speed with this? That's funny. I like that. How much is left before release? A lot. A very lot. The big thing is I want to get the demo out. So rather than talking about release, I'm going to talk about like the demo release. What is the soundtrack? It says the name of the song above my head. So if you ever wonder. My playlist is a big mixture of video game soundtrack stuff. A tutorial? I mean, this level editing thing was pretty complex. I'm actually going to get rid of some of this water. Like that. That's better. Yeah, we don't need that much water. Is the tool available somewhere? Is exclusive from the game? It's exclusive for this game. It's built into the game. There's nothing really generic about it, unfortunately. So let's put in some texture. This is some dirt. This is a little bit awkward. I think I want to change the proportions of this dirt texture because, like, where I click, it doesn't really go there. It's really picky. It's a little bit hard to work with. Also, why is it not... There he goes, okay. Also, I just noticed the shovel was shooting fire too. It's not exclusive to the water bucket. Looks okay. Ah, this music is so nice. I don't really like that. I'm gonna get rid of some of this. I'm trying to... Getting the position on this is really hard because it's not accurate. It keeps, like, making big jumps like that. This is okay. I'll do a little bit more. I'll let it lead into the water. That looks fine. I'm gonna get rid of these. Okay, now let's put in some... I really wanted to get like a narrow strip like that. Ah! Getting this strip is so hard. There we go, that's what I wanted to do. Yeah, this is so bust. Ah, man, I screwed it up again. Yeah, you can see like when I click, it doesn't actually make anything, it makes one corner. And it's so tiny. Like, that's weird. Yeah, I really need to fix that. That's no good. Okay, that's kind of what I wanted to do. So we'll put in a couple boulders. I'll put one. Wait, it won't let me put one here. You know, I think there's some bugs with places where there were elevation and then I removed it because like it won't let me put anything here, and I think it's because I had elevation put right here and then I removed it. Oh, this is how you like erase stuff. If I wanted to erase some of the terrain. This is gonna make anvil and some grasses. Let's put some grass in. So I have a whole UI as well where you can like swap between what thing is selected. Oh yeah, look. As soon as I move this grass over into this area, is there like an invisible field? Show fields. No, there's no invisible field. But it like... What about... No? Hitboxes? No? That's weird. Close and open again. I think that will fix it if I load the game. So let's test that. Let's test that. I'm going to save. So I'm going to save the game. Control S. Then we can see that it says level save successfully. So I'm going to go to that file. And here it is. And we're going to take a look at what it looks like. Like my menu? Thank you. So this is what it looks like now, and it has all the dirt and water and canopy that I added in. So I can go ahead. Actually, I don't need the canopy. This is actually a mistake. I don't want it to store... I don't want it to store canopy data. I want it to store the barrier data and then generate canopy data from that. I'll figure that out later. That's not actually that important. Yeah, because we already have the barriers defined for the cells. We don't need to define separate foreground data. Why do I make a 3D pathfinding if my game is 2D? Because you can jump up onto legends, and I'll show that in just a second. So now that this, I need to actually copy this data over into the checked-in version of this map. Not this one. World. And desert. And we'll go ahead and paste this in. And that should do it. Now when I load the game, it should load us back to where we just were. Whoops. Everything looks to be in place. Except for that anvil. So the anvil I generated actually using a hotkey, so it didn't save, which is fine. So let's see if I'm able to put that grass over here now. I can. Yep, that fixed it. So whoever suggested that was right. Whoop. That's not what I wanted to do. It's a 3D game. Yeah, because you can jump up onto ledges like this. So the reason why the pathfinding was necessary is because if I spawn this little guy, he follows me around. He follows me around, but he needs to be able to jump up onto this ledge. So that's what I mean by 3D pathfinding, is that he's smart. He can move between elevations, which is pretty complex. Oh, I love how smart it is. Oh, I love my little friends. They're so wise. They're wise beyond their years, I think. Yes, but 60 is something about perspective, like 2D, 2.5D. Yeah, I mean, it's all really similar. Because all games are 2D games, right? Because our monitor is flat. We have a flat monitor. It's turning a 3-dimensional space into a flat image. And it just looks 3-dimensional. So, same with my game. Even though I'm jumping around, I'm jumping up onto ledges, it's still a 2D game. It's a fully flat game. There's no third dimension. All of the Z-axis stuff is conceptual. Have I ever tried Pico 8? I've never tried it myself, no. But I played Pico 8 games, like Celeste. The scenery in this game looks so nice. It's actually quite relaxing to look at. Thank you. Yeah, I like the particles as well. That's something that I changed a while back, where you could change the different weather patterns. Will the level editor allow custom terrain types? Yes. What I want to do, and I can't show it right now because the menu's busted, but I actually have a whole UI set up so that, like, when you have the shovel equipped, it's supposed to have a menu open up when you pause that will allow you to, like, change between your options. Because right now, it's creating dirt. Oh man, I screwed it all up. That's annoying. That's whatever. But I want to be able to have an option in the pause menu where you can change from dirt to grass to snow to cracks to whatever else is some sort of terrain you can add. They're really good jumpers. How to market your indie game? All of my marketing is done through social media, just through YouTube and TikTok and stuff. But really, the biggest challenge is not marketing, especially if it's your first game. If it's your first game, definitely don't worry about marketing. Worry about making the best game you can possibly make. And if it's your first game, be mindful that, like, the first game is always going to be the hardest, and it's likely that if it's your first game, it's not going to be very good. So don't worry as much about marketing. Worry as much about growing your skills so that your second game is better than your first game. And then your third game is going to be so much better than your first two that that's going to be a good point to start considering marketing. Or, you know, if I'm wrong, if it turns out that your first game really is like a jackpot amazing game, then you can start considering that once your game is, like, ready and ready to ship. But I wouldn't worry about that until you have a really solid first product, because like, even me, I'm not really at the point where I need to be marketing things. If you haven't noticed, I haven't really posted TikToks or YouTube shorts or videos in general for a long time, and that's just because there's not much to market yet. Like, I need to have a functioning game with a demo that's playable that is different from, you know, the older one before I start marketing it. So I try to keep my priorities straight, because time that you spend on marketing is time that you're not spending working on the game. And I would argue that time spent working on the game is the most important time. Like time spent marketing might not be really worth it, especially if you're doing things solo. So many things can set up a bit. It is hard to get a game to the finish line. So that's why I like. As long as you're growing your skills, that's the main thing. Because as long as you keep at it, you'll eventually reach a point where you're gonna have a game on your hands that's like, oh yeah, this game is amazing. I need to start marketing this. But if your game's at a point where it's like, yeah, it's fine, it's okay. Like, it's my first game. It's my first game. It's not amazing, but it's my first game. It's good. I wouldn't worry about marketing that. But if you have a game on your hands, it's like, oh yeah, this is awesome, this is so much fun, then you can worry about marketing. Already trying to make slimes a little bit transparent. I was looking, I think, on that. I mean, I could, because I think that mobs have an alpha option. Mob alpha. I don't think they actually do. You know, one weird thing is that I don't think I would ever add an alpha channel to the mob as a whole, because the outlines, even if the slimes became semi-transparent, they would still have solid outlines, I think. I think that I will always keep the solid outlines. I would just need to replace the interior color with something that's a bit more transparent. One flex, hi, welcome in. I mean, when the game is done, how should I get players? For me, it's just through social media. I just make videos about it, but a lot of people post on Reddit. They have, like, a Steam community stuff, and they reach out to specific Let's Players and another thing, get people writing articles about them. But for me, like, a lot of my player base is going to come from just my videos promoting the game. And I really want a free playable demo for people to try out. And there is. The Steam demo is available, but it's so old at this point. It's not representative of the recent work I've been doing. This music is perfect slime music. They get really confused along these bottom edges. Oh, he killed me. I heard you love to use for making a game. Did you use GL2 or something like that? Yeah. So the shaders are done using OpenGL or GLSL. Go to shaders. In fact, the most recent video on my YouTube channel is a tutorial for using shaders in Love 2D. And this is an example of one of the GLSL scripts. It's really kind of ugly to look at, because the way these shader scripts work in Love 2D is the whole script gets loaded as a string, and then the string gets loaded into this new shader function. So essentially, you pass a big script as a string into a shader function, which then creates a script, and then you can run that script at different places. So, like over in my draw, it's probably actually in render, not render. Render. There's probably several places where game.view.shader preset. These are different places where it's setting the shader. As soon as you set the shader, it's going to change the kind of scripts that's getting run, and it's all using the GLSL code that's written here. You're doing 3D now? In a way, in a way I am. Like creating the file with HLSL formatting and load those files with a function. Yeah, I did that actually. Where did I do that? Did I do that? I think I did that on stream. Where did I do that? I did that on stream, but maybe I didn't save it. Yeah, there was a stream like half a year ago where someone suggested the same idea, where you can load in like syntax highlighting. Yeah, GLSL lint. I actually did do this. So I installed GLSL lint, and then I created a GLSL file, but it looks like I deleted it. It would be a smart idea, though, for me to take all this code here, move it into a .glsl file, and then load it into this file, into the shader file, so then I can get the syntax highlighting using GLSL lint in a GLSL file, load it into this shader.lua file, and then you get the best of both worlds. Happened to the loading extension that allows you to save these shaders as GLSL. Yeah, that's yeah, we were just chatting about that. How do your enemies stop walking around, or stop walking when they stand in a line instead of keep chasing? Awesome question. Because the big challenge with that is, actually, to answer your question, they still have that problem. If I have a bunch of these slimes following specifically player 1, like this, they do exactly what you were just talking about. Look, he's still trying to chase me because he's not close enough. It's exactly the problem that you were talking about. The reason it wasn't happening a second ago is because I loaded these mobs not as following the player, but as following the latest mob. So let's move this back over. I'm gonna do the same thing, but I'm going to first spawn a follow player 1 mob, and then I'm going to spawn a follow latest mob. So this first mob is following the player mob. But this mob is following this mob, and this mob is following this mob. So this state that we're in is kind of artificial, where I'm specifically telling this mob to follow this one, and this one to follow the second one. Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. Thank you. Do I use tiled? I did for a while, and in fact, I still have some of my old maps where I did use tiled. So this is an example of a tiled map, and tiled is very straightforward to work with because you can load in your tile sets, and you can just like click on them down here. Sorry, it's very small. But you have all your tile sets down here at the bottom, and you can pick and choose which tiles you want to select, and you can manually draw them in with a little editor. It's very streamlined, but the problem I found is when I'm interacting with objects, like you can see like the mobs are just these little points, all the grass objects. It didn't integrate well with the engine, so that's kind of why I switched over to an in-engine level editor system. Use Game Endeavor's approach on pathfinding and mob AI. I don't remember. I definitely watched that video. I can't remember specifically what he talked about in that one. Maybe they switch up navigation methods sometimes. Yeah, that's definitely something that you can do. So when they're all clumped up like that, like if I could go ahead and do that again. Mobs, we'll set it to player 1. Yes, so right now, they are all going directly towards one point. They are all going towards the player's position. And that's why they get stuck in like this big clump and they're just like mindlessly going towards that position. But it would be smarter if in their line of sight check, they're checking to see, is there another mob in between us? Like, is it actually feasible for me to walk towards the player? And that's like, it does that with these rocks. If I walk around this rock, they do walk around the rock. They don't mindlessly walk into the rock. Unless they do. They have some smart pathfinding. They get clumped up because there's so many of them. It looks so janky like this. But yeah, like you were saying, is they do need some intelligence in there, where they won't just mindlessly go towards the player. If it's too crowded, it could be a different cell. Because I have the sight system, they could choose any one of these cells. If this is chasing the player, mob, follow player 1. If this is following the player, right now it's having a direct line of sight, but if I walk around this block, it's gonna start looking at these purple dots, because it's trying to path towards the player. So it doesn't need to choose directly line of sight towards the player. It could choose one of those purple dots as like a compromise. It could be a compromised position, so to speak. Make mobs occupy the view grid of the others. That's the thing, is that there should be some cooperation between the different mobs. Even if they all have the same goal, even if they all are following the player, they should cooperate and see, like, if we all want to reach the player, we should kind of like disperse. Or it could even be more intense than that. They could have like some strategy, some like pincer maneuver, for example. They could try to spread out and try to surround you. I think that would be awesome if it was that smart. Maybe for the, like, these slimes are meant to be kind of stupid though, so maybe like the stupid slimes don't have anything substantial. What up? We're just testing out some of the pathfinding stuff. And dudes in the chat, yeah, there's lots of dudes and dudettes in the chat. Slimes pile on slimes like a cheerleader pyramid. I love that. You can see them, like, they hit each other whenever they are jumping around, because they keep jumping on top of each other. Like that. He just killed him. That's so funny. Also, the slimes can swim. Look, he stops jumping when he goes in the water. So I need to fix his animation so that when he's in the water, it's like, it's a swim animation, but it stops jumping. He's not jumping anymore. And then he starts jumping again. I'm actually pretty impressed with that. So he's bouncing while on land, and then he swims while in the water. I just need a little bit better visuals for that part. And same with the player. The player is like, there's a weird second ring. some weird buggy issue with that. But not bad. Not terrible. Got 15 more minutes before I'm going to call it quits. They could just not enter water. I think I want them to. I think I want things to be able to go into the water. Maybe some things can be water averse. Slimes make sense to go in the water to me, in my mind at least. Especially like the bunyip. I definitely want them to. Oh, this is a weird bug. Look at this. So the mob is chasing me, but it actually puts purple points on this section down here as well as up here. And it causes him to try and jump down there. Look at that. This is a weird bug. So what's happening there is these purple dots, it checks for same elevation points. And since these points over here are technically the same elevation as these ones up here towards the player, the mob is just choosing ones that are closest to him. So these ones down here are closer to this mob, and it's incorrectly prioritizing these ones down here. It really shouldn't. In fact, these purple dots really shouldn't be lit up at all. I don't think. The only reason you would want to have a different ledge lit up is if you like would jump to this ledge and then jump from here all the way over here. Add another gate. Yeah, so the reason he's like blindly jumping against this wall down here also is because, like, look at the position. The position of this cell is underneath of the tile. See? Like, I'm standing at this cell right here. And I need to add some extra logic so that when the mob tries to jump up onto the cell, it has a little bit more downward momentum so it can actually get up onto the ledge. Because right now it's just jumping onto the cell, but he's kind of already at that position. It's basically like jumping in place like this, and it's not moving downwards to get up onto the cell. That's an oopsie, yes it is. But oh, up here it's no problem. Up here it's no problem because it can't actually reach these cells unless it jumps to it. Didn't realize the pathfinding was literally in 3D. Yep, it is. There is a third dimension, and it checks the z-axis for these actual states. So I have a bit more work to do with that. But overall, like, genuinely, this step that I'm at right now where the mobs are able to be on the ground floor and jump up to a higher elevation, that is huge. That is a huge, huge step. Because it takes a lot of... setting up this dot system where it's able to pathfind, that in itself is challenging, but having this intermediate step where it has to jump towards another dot is really complex. The guy can jump now? Yeah, this is a jumping game. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of the site, it's annoying. Which algorithm are you using for pathfinding? A-star? No, it is not. There is no algorithm, like, there's no canned algorithm that I'm using. The algorithm is all custom built by me, and the algorithm is kind of simple. Where I'll turn that site thing back on. But the idea is, when a mob is chasing you, it simply draws a line of sight from the mob to the player. And if there is line of sight, if there's successful line of sight, it just walks in your direction. But if there is no line of sight, like if there's an obstacle in the way, like this rock, then you can see some of the dots start turning purple. These purple dots are meant to be the intermediate, like, mutual positions. They are viable dots that the mob should use to help path towards the mob. So, like, I walk on this side, instead of going directly towards the player, it's going towards a purple dot and then towards the player. So it's my own custom, like, pathfinding logic where it uses line of sight checks to determine what the most viable way to go is. And then I extend that further with the elevation stuff. So when I jump up onto this ledge, all of the dots will turn I don't know why that happened, but when I jump up on the ledge, the dots turn purple. What is going on? I think that there's like some weird... Oh my gosh. I think something happened with the slabs. I think that they got screwed up. Because did you see that he was like going through the walls? Ah, so annoying. Oh my gosh. Can we test in real time? Oh yeah, we are. Also, this is my favorite song from Silk Song. It's really awesome. Okay, we're gonna try that again. Show site. We're going to create a follow mob. I jump up here. As soon as I jump up there, the nearby tiles will turn purple, which tells the slime mob those are the viable tiles that I need to get to. And since those are higher elevation tiles up here, it needs to use a jump to get to any of these. I'm gonna try and like put some distance between us. How can you create the map and the collision? That's an awesome question. So in tiled, I drew all the tiles, but then I also have an object layer, these purple layers. And these are like, I have a walls layer. And I literally, wherever there was solid ground, wherever there was solid walls, I literally would draw in a rectangle. So like if I wanted to block this path off, I would draw a rectangle like this to block it off. So all around the perimeters, you can see I drew in all of these rectangles around the edges, and that's how the walls got spawned in. But in my new system, where it uses like the engine code, it knows where the terrain tiles are, like here. It knows where these green tiles are, and so it just places the correct colliders at those positions. And that's how it works. So we're gonna spawn that mob again. And we're gonna turn some of these dots are gonna turn purple. And he actually jumps too early. He like jumped from really far back. It's like the Roblox Pathfinding service. I'm not sure. Maybe. Man, that's a long jump. It's able to jump really far. Purple dots with red and yellow border. Oh, good point. I didn't even mention this. So, same on the ground level, there is no ring. Up here, there is a ring. The reason why there's a ring is actually because there's multiple points. Actually, these ones down here is a better example. Notice how there's a green dot surrounded by a yellow ring. This is because on the ground floor, there's one dot. And on the top floor, there's another dot. Vitor, no, stop spamming. Annoying. So, sorry, what I was saying is that it's actually rendering two different dots. There's a yellow dot that's on the ground. Like this dot and this yellow dot next to it are the exact same. It's showing that both of these spots are open. They're both like next to a ledge, essentially. But when you go up an elevation, the dot that it renders for that elevation is smaller. So this green dot that you see over top of the yellow dot, it's actually not a yellow ring. It's this yellow dot with a smaller green dot over top of it. And what that tells us is that when I stand here, on the ground level, it's a yellow dot. But up here, it's a green dot. And I did that because you do need access to that. Especially if I have, let's go ahead and create like a level 3 terrain. And I'll put that right here. And I'll go back. Did that work? I think it did work. I just need to create the mob. Long story short, the idea is if you are going to this dot right here, I needed a way to differentiate between this dot in terms of the ground level when you're standing behind it versus the very high level when you're up on top of that ledge. There's two different positions, essentially. That's why the dots are multicolored like that. Okay. Yeah, it was a hard decision to try and put the jumping into the game, because having this extra dimension makes it so much harder. Like, coding this game in general is much more challenging than it was before. The placing objects problem is solved now. Well, I should be able to. The bug is not fixed, but the workaround is still there, like you suggested. If you close the map and restart it again, you'll be able to place objects anywhere. But I still need to fix the bug that causes that to happen. Why do you think that the custom level editor is better and fits better with your new system? It's because I can see what the game looks like in real time. So if I look at this map here, take a look at all of these little dots. Like, this one says sprout and grass and dandy, and this one says mob dummy, and this one says mob human blacksmith, and this one says logs. You can't see what any of those things look like because this is the tile editor. This is the tile map editor. It is not the game engine. This has no connection with the game engine. This exports a map, and then the game engine imports that map and uses this data to spawn a bunch of stuff. The reason I wanted to move it towards an engine-centric level editor is so that I could place objects into the game and see what they look like as I'm doing it. So if I was placing these sprouts in, I can actually see what it looks like in the level like this, as opposed to using those weird invisible dots that just say grass. It doesn't give me a very good visual of what the final product will look like compared to this. And then on top of it, since it's built into the engine, it's built into the game itself, now it's really easy to do mod support. It's going to be really easy to allow people to build their own levels. In the same way, now it's easier for me to build my own levels. If it's easier for me to build levels, it's easier for other people, and so that's just a mutual benefit. Building an in-game editor is the way to go. I think it's 100% worth it while developing the project has legs. It's definitely worth it if the game is a long-term project. But here's the thing: the time that you spend working on a built-in engine level editor, that's time spent not working on content. So only spend time working on that if you feel like there's enough value to be gained from it. Because if you spend all this time working on a moddable level editor, but then the game doesn't launch, what was the point? As opposed to just using tiled, at least tiled can get you to the finish line. You can make a complete game using tiled, and it is perfectly fine. And it'll be a much faster process to get started. So that's just something to consider. I normally advise people to go with the simpler option normally, just because there's so many problems that you can run into. And in fact, I haven't even finished my level editor. I'm still working on it. There's so many things that could still go wrong where I might have to backtrack. That could happen. I hope it doesn't, but it could. So now I'm going to go ahead and save my progress. We got the Control S to save. We should see that in the console log, level saved. So I'm going to go back over to that level desert.json. Load it up in here and take a look. It's probably not that much different from before, but I wanted to go ahead and show it. I'm going to put this in. So now when I save, and now I should be able to load up that level again. No problem. You can hear someone's stomach rumbling. It's you? Oh, I thought for sure it was going to be me, because I am really hungry. I am really hungry. I'm so excited to go get food. Is your level editor pixel-based or not? It is actually not pixel-based. You can place items anywhere, and we can see that in the JSON. Check out the positions. It's rounded to the nearest .100th. It's the nearest 100th place. And I think some of these are even worse. I have the stickers. I remember something in this file has really, really precise positioning. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I fixed it. I remember there was like the stickers used to have really precise positioning, but I must have fixed that. Being inspired to make my own TD game. Awesome, that's cool to hear. And I'm still figuring out all the controls. I've been struggling a lot trying to decide what the control scheme is going to be like on controller, because controller support is here already, by the way. But I want the control scheme to be naturally fit for mouse and keyboard. So right now it's like space is jump, right click is crouch, and click is attack. And it feels really natural playing this way. And then you can press shift to swap between your weapons. So it feels really comfortable. Now I'm trying to do the same thing on controller, and I'm mostly there. The only thing that I'm not there on is the 4 buttons. I'm trying to decide what the best mapping is. I'm also trying to decide, do I need a button for interacting with things? Because right now, the attack button is what you use to interact with things. But that's really awkward, because if you need to like talk to a person, the way that you talk to them is you go up and attack them. That just doesn't make sense. I think that there does need to be an interact button. I've been going back and forth on that a bunch of different times, so I don't really know. It's hard to really say. Support both WASD players and arrow players. Yeah, in fact, I have that set up too, because right now I'm using arrow keys right now. I'm using WASD right now. I could use either or. But WASD fits naturally because you can press the spacebar with it. Although you could remap like the control key to be jump and it would be fine. Attack the blacksmith and get smacked with a hammer. Basically, yeah. I think it would be really fun if in like the final game, all of the mobs, all of the NPCs and the humans, like they could become violent if you attack them. I think that'd be funny. Some people really like the arrows, boomer gamers like me. I mean, I feel ya. When I was one thing that I am supporting is keyboard only mode, where you can play the game on a laptop. Because when I was growing up, I would play lots of indie games with just the keyboard. And some of them you had to use the mouse, and I just had a trackpad. Have you ever tried to play like a mouse and keyboard game with a trackpad in WASD? It's horrible. It's horrible. So the game fully supports mouse or just keyboard only. So you can play the game where Z is the attack button. It's a little bit awkward right now because it's using the mouse slightly. And then you can press X to crouch, and you can press shift or space to jump still. So I'm using just the mouse and keyboard. Or sorry, I'm misspeaking so badly. I'm using just the keyboard right now, and I can still do all the same like tech. I think if I do, yeah, I can still do that. There shouldn't be any limitations from doing this. But obviously, using mouse and keyboard is more precise, and then using a controller is more precise than that because you have the analog stick. You have free aim and stuff. The tufts of grass have their own angle update, or one tuft depends on the other one. So each grass has 2 layers, and they are independent. But as an optimization trick, I do have it set so that some grasses will use the same positioning as other grasses. Interact could be right click. It could. What would it be on the controller though? Because if interact is right click on the mouse, what would it be on the controller? What I'm actually thinking is making it so that A on the controller is interact, which is kind of natural. You press A to click on things. And then Y would be attack, but then on mouse and keyboard, there is no like interact button. Instead, it's like you click on something to interact with it. You click on them to interact, and then you click like anywhere else to attack. But I'm still thinking through that. I'll give it a lot of thought. I'm giving it a lot of considerations, and I'll think on it. But I'm at the end of the stream. I'm ready to call it quits. I'm so hungry. I'm so ready to get my McDonald's, and I will be back next week for yet another Moonshire Monday. Oh, Rick Carlson said he was a Windows 3.0, and that PC had no mouse at all. That's crazy to think about. That's wild. But yeah, I will be back next week. Bye, everyone. Thanks for being here.